Slam Pigs Extra, top 3 time, guys. We're back. Real quick, follow me on Twitter at TheAbigTMD and check out Michael. Welcome once again to the top 3 at Mike the Slam Pig.
Thank you.
Michael, today our top 3, we're talking feuds.
Feuds.
It's funny to say Scottish.
Yes.
Top 3 feuds of all
How do
time.
Canadians say it? Feuds. Is it?
So they do,
I don't know.
they do with that facial
Well, instead of
expression.
saying again, they say again. So I don't.
Way to just throw down a country right at the top.
Well, no, I wasn't throwing down a country. I just thought maybe they had an accent on it.
Anyway, Michael, feuds in pro wrestling. Now, our list this time on Slam Pigs Extra, we're talking any era, any promotion. Doesn't
Yes.
matter. As long as it was in a wrestling ring, it
Could
could
be
a
from
feud.
Mid-South if you want it.
It could be from fucking JCW, Juggalo Championship Wrestling, Fat Fuck Barrel Boy.
Could be from Smoky Mountain.
I was in a chat
Which is
the other
on
day.
WWE Network.
I couldn't
I
believe it.
cannot believe Smoky Mountain Wrestling is on WWE
A
Network.
lot of good stuff. Teresa Smothers was in a ladder match in Smoky Mountain. Michael. Jesus Christ.
OVW.
What? Top 3 OVW feuds. Oh my God, what are we doing? The top 3 feuds. Now, Michael, what a good feud. What makes a good feud, real quick? In my opinion, realism. It's got to be organic. Two guys that have, for one, natural chemistry off the bat, and you can tell when guys do. If you've been watching wrestling long enough, like us, you can just tell when guys do. Like talking modern times, like the most recent feud, quote unquote, was like Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens. And I don't know about you, but those guys had no fucking chemistry together.
None.
I mean, none. I mean, my God, to make a good feud, you need a great babyface and a great heel, and we all know what makes a great what it was. So we're not going to get all into that, but
The best feud they've probably had this year is Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho.
because of build, for
Because
one,
of the build
and how well it was, the
Yes.
turn was done.
and they have chemistry. Even though their in-ring matches aren't great,
Yeah.
it's believable. You know what I mean? Two guys kind of the same size, two totally different personalities. They kind
The
of
whole
mesh
best
well.
friends thing,
Yes,
too.
they mesh well.
And they
So-
were both heels in the start, and there was a turn, too. That always adds to a feud. A good swerve never hurts.
Yep.
Just ask Vince Russo. If any
Does that mean you're gonna have Marty and Sean in your top 3?
No, I actually wasn't. And I'm surprised at myself that I wasn't in my... Because you know
that
what,
would
their
be,
feud...
that would be top 3 heel turns.
Because their feud fucking kind of sucked.
Yeah.
Because Marty just couldn't...
Marty couldn't stay out of trouble.
Stay off the bottle.
Yeah.
Lots of things. But Michael, real quick, honorable mentions, and not just feuds. Well, what about good feuds that don't get talked about? Like, you know, a good one, you're gonna laugh, was Hogan and Earthquake. Hogan, you never saw him taken out like that until I think that point, like hospitalized, Hulkamaniac, Hulkster's crying and sending
Hogan and
cards.
Perfect.
That's a good one.
The belt was
They broke the
destroyed.
belt with the hammer. The
Yeah.
Genius pinned Hulk Hogan on live
Yep.
television.
Even though that one was kind of squashed by Hogan's backstage politics, he didn't think Perfect was a big enough guy to be believable.
No, we were WWF kids growing up mainly. Like we called
But
WCW.
then WCW came around.
The NWO stuff.
I think you watched WCW more than I did, but I did get the gist of the big rivalries.
But now
So,
it was like full-grown adults looking back at. So we've had time to take it all in, all the eras. What promotion do you think always had the best feuds out of any of them?
WCCW, world class.
I can't totally disagree. It's got to be up there.
Even though it wasn't around when we were, it wasn't around when we were kids to actually watch it, but looking back at some of the rivalries,
Yeah, the
it was like,
Freebirds.
damn, those crowds were hot.
And that Freebirds Von Erichs feud made
Yeah.
that like Texas versus Georgia.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. I think another good one though was for me has had to be that NWA Horseman era when you saw Dusty and the Horsemen when they took him out like mafia style and broke his ankle. Some of the best. That promotion. I mean, you saw so many guys.
Saw some good stuff in AWA
You saw stuff
too.
with Jimmy Garvin and Precious at the same time. The Horsemen saw the same promotion with like feuding with, you saw Midnight Express. My God, look at that shit.
Midnight
Rock and Roll. The Midnight and the Midnight. The
Yeah.
two Midnights. That was great stuff.
AWA had some good stuff too.
You also had like the LOD and the Road Warriors in there with like the Russians, Nikita Koloff, and all these feuds going on at the same time. So yes,
you had Memphis with Jerry Lawler feuding with everybody.
Jerry Lawler, Andy Kaufman.
Yeah, that was a good one.
One of the most iconic feuds. Jerry Lawler and Bill Dundee. One of the most longest.
Jerry Lawler and everybody in Memphis.
Yeah, fucking cotton candy guy. Yeah. Shout out to the cotton candy guy.
Man, he was doing work.
Michael, let's get right into it. Our top 3 feuds of all time. You want to go first, or you want me to take it?
Age before beauty. Go ahead.
I would say my number 3 feud of all time would have to be a tag team, and it's kind of a cop out, but it's not a. I mean, like I said, this is a looking back reflection. It's going to have to be the Rock and Roll Express Midnight Express, because I don't think 2 tag teams' careers ever relied on the other so much. Their careers literally relied on that feud.
And it went on forever.
For almost a decade until they branched out and feuded with other teams when they went to other promotions. Yes, I mean, also the original. My favorite incarnation of the Midnight Express was Stan Lane and Bobby Eaton, as I'm sure everyone's is. I mean, unless you're a Dennis Condrey guy, I don't know. You like the little bow tie.
What's wrong with Dennis? I like Dennis.
But yeah, I think any incarnation was fine as far as the feud. But yeah, so much classic shit. Like I said, as a kid, this was oblivious to me because we just didn't watch it in our area. But looking back, I got to. And I know it's fresh off than going in the Hall of Fame, but I still would have put this feud in there. What do you think?
My number 3 is going to be maybe not as well remembered as I think it should be, because it wasn't for a belt. It was just a personal vendetta that involved a woman, and it got really, really personal and really, really graphic. It was one of the most graphic things I think I ever saw as a kid, and it scared the shit out of me just because of my fear. And it was Jake Roberts and Macho Man Randy Savage at number 3 for me.
That's a good one. I didn't think about that one.
That feud was really, really heated, and I think it scared the shit out of me because at the time I was like fucking 4 years old, and there's a fucking guy that's one of my heroes on TV getting bit by a snake, and literally was getting bit by a snake on television and blood coming out. And for a 4-year-old like myself, I was scared to death because I was scared to death of snakes, and I still am to this day. I don't want anywhere near a fucking snake at all.
Yeah,
none. I have a snake tattooed on my arm because I thought it would help me face my fear having to look at it every day. Nope. Dumbest fucking thing I ever had done. But this feud stands out to me, and I think it deserves to make my list because of the impact it had on me as a child, and I feel like it's not talked about enough. I mean, it started out at the wedding, the fun match made in heaven. Yeah. They're opening their gifts, and bam, there's a snake that comes out.
And when you ordered, I remember because we had the VHS tapes, the actual pay-per-view. They didn't show that on the pay-per-view. They showed like Superstars the next week or something, or the next WWF show.
It went on for a couple different pay-per-views. It started with Macho Man getting reinstated. Then they had a match on, what was it? Was it Saturday Night Main Event, or was it like a Superstars or something?
It was the main event.
Yeah, where he got bit by the snake when he made his return. Then it led to this Tuesday in Texas, where he was officially reinstated.
And like a 4-minute match, by the way.
Yes, this Tuesday in Texas match wasn't...
That pay-per-view was like an hour and a half, too, by the way.
It was, and that's why it didn't last.
Yeah.
But then it finally capped off at the very next pay-per-view, which was, I believe...
The Rumble.
Yes.
The weirdest... He eliminated himself, but he didn't moment.
Well, no, it capped off after that as well.
Saturday night's main event?
The Rumble was after it capped off, I thought. I thought it capped off at...
Because I thought Jake left because of money negotiations, so we never got a real payoff. So they just put him with Taker
real quick to
get Taker over.
They had a match somewhere. I can't remember which pay-per-view it was, but that capped it off with Macho Man giving him an extra elbow after the match, and that was the payoff. But that was it didn't get enough credit for what it was. I thought it was a really well done feud as far as emotional strings for the time.
I'll say that was 91, right?
Plus, if you remember, Jake smacked Elizabeth, I believe.
Yes.
In the face.
That's probably the biggest point of all, Miss Feuds. And that was, I said, like 91 WWF television. You never saw anything that intense.
He gets bit by a snake, and then his wife gets smacked by another man.
Tully Blanchard slapped Baby Doll, but that was NWA. That shit happened all the time in NWA.
I only got a piece. I remember that promo with Macho.
Yeah.
After Tuesday.
I got a piece of him!
Yeah, he was so pissed.
So one of the most intense promos.
The most intense promo I ever saw from Macho.
Very good pick. Very good pick. Didn't blindside me with
Yep.
it. Kind of mad I didn't think about it. Well, I think my number 2 holds up. If it's your number 1, I'm very sorry. Now, this isn't rivalries. This is feuds and what played out on television as far as an angle. I don't know how anybody could not put this in your top 3. At my number 2, Steve Austin and Bret the Hitman Hart. These two, as much as they liked each other and respect each other backstage, I don't think any two played the part so well where they just acted like they hated each other. They hated each other's
They had some
fucking
intense
guts.
matches.
They had some of the best television segments on Raw, like when they took Bret back in the ambulance.
Yeah.
And then Austin, he beat up the ambulance driver and he was in there all along. It was fucking awesome. The Canada versus US thing, I don't think would have taken on without Steve Austin and Bret Hart as the foundation to build that off of. They first had their first match together, Survivor 96, great fucking match. I personally like that better than their I Quit match. I know you probably disagree. That I Quit match is one of the best things ever done in a ring at any WrestleMania as far as storytelling.
WrestleMania 13, that's definitely... It's one of the top 5 matches of all time. If it's not in your top 5, there's something wrong.
And that is a case
storytelling.
of storytelling at its finest. My God. And there was a lot of huzzbub built into like Shamrock and like bells and whistles, but it wouldn't have needed it.
It didn't need it.
Exactly.
I feel like Shamrock was kind of lost in the shuffle during that match. Like, he had no purpose in that match at all.
And so many things branched off of this specific feud. Austin took this feud and springboarded into a great feud with Owen.
They
Another
switched
one
places.
with Pillman. The whole Hart Foundation.
The WrestleMania 13 is obvious they switched places. Austin was pushed as more of a liked babyface. Even though he didn't play a babyface character, he was more popular than Bret. This launched the Bret Hart heel character.
I think if Vince McMahon would have never been there for Steve Austin to play off of, Steve Austin and Bret Hart may have been when Austin peaked. Because I think Austin needed Vince.
People forget about this.
I don't think Vince gets enough credit for how much he made Austin a fucking megastar.
Yep.
But I think Bret would have been when he peaked. I think that would have made maybe a little bit higher, but if not by much.
Yeah.
But that's what I got, man. That's my number 2. I love that fucking
My number
feud.
2 has a common name in it. It's Bret Hart.
There you go.
But it does not have Steve Austin in it. It has the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels.
Good one.
Bret and Shawn, one of the most notorious rivalries / feuds of all time.
Feuds.
Everybody thinks of the screw job, of course, but everybody forgets the Iron Man match. I know you're not big on this match, but for me, it's another one of my top 5 matches of all time. For these two guys to be able to go out on a WrestleMania and put on a 60-minute match and keep people engaged. If you listen to the crowd during that match, that crowd was into that match the whole time. And every move, they kept a really good pace.
Not really.
I thought they did.
The crowd? WrestleMania 12?
You're in Anaheim. And imagine putting that match in a stadium.
Because I don't ever remember that crowd picking up to like the last 5 or maybe even 3 minutes.
No,
I thought it was. To me, the match seems like rest hold spot. That was like the whole match. The dive out of the ring spot, kick the announcer in the face spot when Bret moved. Something else happened.
There was a whole bunch of stuff that went on in this match that doesn't get enough credit.
I don't think it's a bad match. I think it's an over-glorified match. Because of A, who's in it, B, the stage it took on. It took place main event at WrestleMania and like the ultimate stipulation match for a world title.
But I watched the whole match.
So have I.
I mean,
it's just our opinions.
I watched it over without fast forwarding.
Me too. I've watched it many times without fast
throughout the 60 minutes to watch it over and over again. So there's little tidbits of psychology in this match that
I like that match better than their Survivor Series 97 match.
Well, yeah, that match sucked.
I like it better than their Survivor Series 92 match. That match kind of sucks. I
thought that was a really good match, but
it was such a
differ.
Shawn wasn't ready.
It was basically Bret's first pay-per-view title defense. They had to put somebody in there with him, and they figured they were going to have a good match because, obviously they're going to have a good match.
Yeah.
So it definitely felt real because of the backstage politics and their genuine dislike for one another. You could see it on camera.
Yeah.
As opposed to Austin and Bret, who actually liked each other backstage. These two really did not like each other one fucking bit. They actually had some altercations backstage. Physical altercations.
We all know.
Yes. Shawn didn't win. But, but yes.
A lot of people say Shawn couldn't fight his way out of a paper bag.
Shawn's not what we would call a tough guy.
He's a lover.
But these two genuinely hated each other, and it made for good television and some great stuff.
Is Dolph Ziggler like if you mix Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels in a blender, because Dolph Ziggler was like an NCAA wrestling champion, but he has the sexy boy gimmick.
Yeah,
So you know what I mean?
I get that, but I would never put him with either one of those
Well, yeah,
guys.
not that caliber.
Yeah, but I could see it
Yeah.
if you were gonna put them together. He definitely got Shawn Michaels' stature. You know what those fucking legs. They just get smaller and smaller. They just look like little twigs. And he puts on
that could be another top 3. Littlest legs in wrestling. Little Beaver is my number. Little Mr. T.
That's my number 2. Travis, your number 1 feud of all time.
If anyone knows me, it's not hard. It's very predictable. It's very generic, at least in my opinion, it would be. I think no two guys complement each other like a yin and yang better in the history of wrestling than Hulk Hogan and Macho Man Randy Savage. The WrestleMania 5 feud in particular, just not the WCW stuff, none of that stuff. This feud specifically, this angle, this whole year-long Mega Power stuff. One of my all-time favorite things ever in wrestling. One of my first wrestling memories. I know it's nostalgic and I'm biased, but it's still good. Like I would still think it's really good, even if I didn't watch it as a kid. It's tremendous. It's one of the best things they ever did in the 80s by far was the Elizabeth angle when he fell on her and he took her backstage. It's one of the best fucking things they ever did back then. Of course, the payoff at WrestleMania 5. Then, like, it's Buster Douglas is the referee because Mike Tyson got knocked the fuck out by Buster Douglas, so they got Buster Douglas.
So they had to get him last minute.
And of course, these two followed each other into WCW, and they tried to recapture.
Do you know the backstage story to the Buster Douglas thing?
Little tidbits.
They've been in negotiations with Tyson for a couple months to do this, and then when he got beat by Buster Douglas, they totally just gave him the cold shoulder because he had been such a prick dealing with them in negotiations. Buster Douglas was super easy. I think it didn't take
a phone call.
Yeah, and that was it.
Hey, Buster. Sure. Yeah. Didn't have to finish the sentence.
That was the funniest part about that. It was like a last-minute thing, and it just was dealt with so much easier than the months they'd been dealing with Tyson.
After Buster knocked out Tyson, he was probably still starstruck for like 6 months, like in shock.
He was probably cashing it. He knew it wasn't going to last.
Yeah, and it didn't.
It was just one of those things where I'm going to make as much money
as I can. The next fight, didn't he lose?
Yeah, he lost his first title defense.
Did he lose to Holyfield?
He lost to
Christ. I want to say Lewis or Holyfield.
No, he didn't lose to either one of those guys. He lost to
Yeesh.
Michael Moore.
There you go. Not the film guy, not the political film director,
I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my top feud, Michael. I know that's got a lot of nostalgic hold.
Yeah, I didn't see that one coming as your number 1.
That was my number.
That was a good feud. It didn't make my list, so it would have been an honorable mention for me. But my number 1 feud is probably one of the most obvious ones of all time. I think it is probably the most influential feud in wrestling history.
Barry Horowitz and Skip.
That's an honorable mention. Ooh. It's in my top 300.
300, not 600.
But
15,000.
I think it's pretty obvious. Stone Cold Steve Austin and Vince McMahon.
Yeah, I tried not to pick that one on the list.
I can't not have it on my list.
One of us had to have it on.
And it has to be on there just for pure ratings. It just is. I mean, honestly, who cannot relate to the disgruntled employee and the asshole boss? You know what I mean? And this feud went on for years. I mean, it still goes on.
Unfortunately, I think it went on way too long.
It still goes on to this day when Austin makes an appearance and McMahon's there. They still capitalize on it.
Yeah.
And it's just the thing that kept the company alive, to be honest. If it wasn't for this feud, WWE would not be here today. It would not. You could say all you want about the complimentary pieces about The Rock and all the other people there. If it was not for this feud, WWE would not be in business today.
God, don't forget, The Rock was there. He just wasn't as over as he was until after the corporation was stable, until after Vince and Austin took it to new heights. Then The Rock came along.
Yep.
They ushered The Rock in, and they paved the road.
This feud turned the tides with the ratings.
What would you have done with The Rock had there been no corporation and chosen one thing for him to do at Survivor 98? He would have stayed in the fucking nation and he would have floundered.
Well, I mean, he was out of the nation by then. He was a babyface by then.
Right.
But this was when he was really starting to get hot as a babyface too, which is what made that heel turn good.
And that would have peaked him if they would have kept, and that was brilliant, turning him like that.
Yep.
And we say it all the time, God damn it, but that's what they should have did with Reigns. There's so many fucking feuds. Let's take it a little bit more modern. What is modern in the last 10 years? I would say The Rock and Cena has probably been the biggest feud.
Yeah.
Honestly. Maybe Brock and Taker to an extent because of
No.
the streak, but it falls in comparison to the trash talk that went on with The Rock and
Yes.
Cena
Yes.
by far.
It's the most entertaining feud. Yes.
Another good one was just CM Punk versus WWE in general when he did that pipe bomb gimmick.
Yeah.
When he was just
CM Punk and Cena, I thought did some good stuff.
Yeah.
Just banter back. CM Punk and Triple H.
Matt Hardy and Edge was another good one.
Another good one.
Say what you want about who was in it, but my God, that was.
There's so many that could have made our list, guys, but we can only pick 3. And we're sorry if
Brett
we missed.
Nolan.
Yes. We're sorry if we missed any, but let us know down in the comment section below what would be in your top 3 that we may have missed. What do you guys think?
Hey, Stu, wake up!
Yeah, what'd you say, Stu?
Yeah. Until next time, this is Slam Pigs Extra. See you next week, Stu.
Hey, you dirty fucking pigs. Mike here from the Slam Pigs Podcast, reminding you once again to check us out on Twitter, whether it be the Slam Pigs Podcast, whether it be me at Mike the Slam Pig, or whether it be our sister show, The Reset Button. Check us out. Also, you can find us on Facebook at the Slam Pigs Podcast or The Reset Button. And as always, make sure you check us out as a whole on Hibiki TMD. Until we see you next time, oink oink.